From the outside, a U.S. Navy destroyer looks like a floating fortress of steel, missiles, and radar, but behind heavy, watertight doors lies a world that few civilians and even many sailors ever see. There are windowless rooms where operators can track hundreds of aircraft and missiles at once, hidden engineering spaces where crews keep a $2 billion warship alive, secure compartments filled with classified electronics that allow the ship to detect threats long before they appear on the horizon. These aren't secret bunkers from a Hollywood movie. They're the hidden nerve centers that allow a destroyer to survive, fight, and protect its crew thousands of miles from land. Today, we're stepping inside these restricted spaces to discover how one of the world's most powerful warships really works. Modern Arleigh Burke-class destroyers are among the most advanced warships ever built. They carry powerful radars, guided missiles, helicopters, and a crew of more than 300 sailors. Most people only ever see what's above the deck, but below the surface lies a maze of passageways and specialized compartments that control every aspect of the ship, from its weapons and propulsion to its communications and damage control systems. Many of these areas are restricted not because they're mysterious, but because they contain critical equipment essential to the ship's mission and, in some cases, classified technology. Our journey begins in what many sailors consider the true brain of the destroyer. If you've ever watched a naval movie, you've probably assumed the bridge is where everything happens. It's where the captain stands. It's where the ship is steered. It's where the horizon is watched. But during combat, the bridge is only half the story. Deep inside the destroyer, protected by layers of steel and positioned away from exterior walls, sits one of the most important compartments aboard, the Combat Information Center, or CIC. Unlike the bridge, the CIC has no windows. It doesn't need them. Instead, the room is illuminated by dozens of tactical displays showing radar tracks, sonar contacts, electronic intelligence, navigation information, and data shared from other ships and aircraft. It is here that operators build a complete picture of the battle space. A modern destroyer may be monitoring commercial airliners, friendly aircraft, helicopters, merchant vessels, allied warships, and potential threats simultaneously. The CIC fuses all of that information into one constantly updated tactical display. At the center of this capability is the Aegis Combat System, integrated with the AN/SPY, one phased array radar on most Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. Rather than simply detecting objects, Aegis helps classify, track, and prioritize them, allowing the crew to respond quickly if a threat emerges. Inside the CIC, every sailor has a specific responsibility. Radar operators monitor the air and surface picture. Sonar personnel track underwater contacts. Electronic warfare specialists analyze radio frequency emissions. Tactical action officers coordinate the ship's response. Communications teams maintain links with nearby ships, aircraft, and higher headquarters. The atmosphere is calm but intensely focused. Conversations are brief. Commands are precise. Every second counts. Unlike the bridge, where the crew can look outside, CIC personnel rely entirely on sensors. In darkness, dense fog, or heavy storms, they may actually have a better understanding of the surrounding battle space than someone standing on the bridge. During high-threat situations, the commanding officer often moves between the bridge and the CIC, using the bridge for navigation while relying on the CIC for tactical awareness and combat decisions. For obvious reasons, many details about the CIC remain classified. The exact software, display layouts, and combat procedures are not publicly released. But what is publicly known makes one thing clear. Without this hidden room, a destroyer could still sail, it could still float, but it would lose much of its ability to detect threats, coordinate its weapons, and defend both itself and the ships around it. And surprisingly, the CIC isn't the most technically impressive compartment aboard, because deep below the waterline lies another hidden space where sailors control something even more essential: the ship's power itself. If the Combat Information Center is the brain of a destroyer, then the Engineering Control Center, or ECC, is its heart. Unlike the bridge or the CIC, this compartment has nothing to do with firing missiles or tracking enemy aircraft. Its job is even more fundamental: keeping the ship alive. Hidden several decks below the waterline, the ECC is where engineers monitor and control the destroyer's propulsion, electrical generation, fuel systems, and auxiliary machinery. Every second, dozens of sensors feed information to consoles showing temperatures, pressures, electrical loads, lubrication systems, and the status of critical equipment throughout the ship. On an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the engineering plant is built around 4 General Electric LM2500 marine gas turbines. These engines are derived from aircraft jet engine technology but are adapted for naval use. Together, they generate around 100,000 shaft horsepower, allowing the destroyer to exceed 30 knots, or roughly 35 miles per hour, 56 kilometers per hour. Unlike a car, however, the engines don't directly turn the propellers. Each pair of gas turbines connects through a massive reduction gear. While the turbines spin at thousands of revolutions per minute, a ship's propellers must rotate much more slowly to operate efficiently and avoid excessive cavitation. The reduction gears convert that high-speed turbine output into the lower speed, high-torque rotation needed to drive the shafts. This machinery is enormous. Some components weigh several tons and are installed while the ship is still under construction. Once the destroyer is complete, removing major propulsion equipment often requires cutting through sections of the hull during major overhauls. The Engineering Control Center also oversees the ship's electrical power. Destroyers rely on multiple gas turbine generators to supply electricity for virtually everything on board: radars, communications, lighting, ventilation, pumps, combat systems, and even the galley. If electrical power is lost, many of the ship's capabilities disappear instantly. That's why redundancy is built into nearly every major system. If one generator fails, others can continue supplying power. If one engine develops a problem, the remaining turbines can still propel the ship, although at reduced performance. During normal operations, engineers rotate watches around the clock. Even when the ship is peacefully crossing the ocean, someone is always monitoring the propulsion plant, because at sea, there is no roadside assistance. If something fails in the middle of the Pacific, the crew must diagnose and repair it themselves. Step beyond the Engineering Control Center and you enter one of the loudest places on the ship, the main engine rooms. When the gas turbines are operating at high power, the sound is overwhelming. Hearing protection is mandatory, and conversations are often impossible without communication headsets. The temperature also rises dramatically. Despite extensive ventilation systems, these compartments are hot, crowded, and filled with rotating machinery, high-pressure piping, pumps, valves, and electrical equipment. Engineers moving through these spaces follow strict safety procedures because a single mistake around high-speed machinery or high-pressure systems can have serious consequences. Yet this is where the destroyer truly comes to life. Every burst of speed, every turn of the propellers, every mile traveled across the ocean begins in these hidden compartments that most visitors never see. When most people look at a U.S. Navy destroyer, their eyes are immediately drawn to the rows of square hatches on the forward and aft decks. They don't look particularly impressive, just flat steel panels, but beneath those hatches lies one of the most powerful weapon systems ever installed on a warship. The Mark 41 vertical launch system, better known as the VLS. On a flight to a Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, there are 96 launch cells, 32 forward and 64 aft. Flight 3 ships retain the same number of cells while incorporating major radar and combat system upgrades. Each cell is an independent launch tube capable of holding different types of missiles depending on the ship's mission. These may include SM-2 missiles for long-range air defense, SM-6 missiles capable of engaging aircraft, cruise missiles, and certain ballistic missile threats, Tomahawk land attack missiles for striking targets hundreds of miles inland, RUM-139 VLASROC, which delivers a lightweight torpedo toward a suspected submarine, or a quad pack of evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, ESSM, allowing multiple shorter-range defensive missiles to fit inside a single launch cell. What makes the VLS remarkable is its flexibility. Unlike older warships that had dedicated launchers for each weapon, the Mark 41 allows commanders to tailor the destroyer's missile loadout before deployment based on the expected mission. An air defense mission may emphasize standard missiles. A land strike mission may carry more Tomahawks. An anti-submarine deployment may include additional ASROC weapons. The ship can be configured for entirely different missions without changing its basic design. One of the biggest misconceptions is that sailors simply walk beneath the launch cells and service missiles like mechanics in a garage. That's not how the system works. The Mark 41 VLS is largely self-contained. Each missile is housed in a sealed canister that serves as both a storage container and a launch tube. This design protects the missile from the harsh marine environment and simplifies handling. Routine maintenance focuses on the launcher's electronics, cooling systems, power distribution, and associated support equipment rather than opening missile canisters. The compartments beneath the launcher contain cabling, electronic interfaces, monitoring equipment, and structural support systems, not rows of exposed missiles. Access to these areas is tightly controlled. Only qualified personnel perform maintenance, and strict safety procedures are followed whenever work is conducted around the launch system. Every missile aboard a destroyer represents an enormous amount of stored energy. Although the weapons are designed with multiple layers of safety, the Navy treats every evolution involving missile systems with extreme care. Fire detection systems, temperature monitoring, shock-resistant equipment, blast protection, redundant electrical systems all help ensure the launcher remains safe under demanding conditions at sea. The Mark 41 also includes features designed to manage the intense heat and exhaust generated during a launch, allowing missiles to be fired vertically before turning toward their targets. This hot launch method enables rapid engagements in almost any direction without rotating a launcher toward the threat. Within seconds, the destroyer can engage aircraft approaching from one side of the ship while preparing another missile for a completely different target. The vertical launch system is more than a collection of missile tubes. It is the destroyer's primary offensive and defensive weapon. Whether intercepting an incoming cruise missile, defending an aircraft carrier, striking a target hundreds of miles inland, or attacking a submarine beyond the horizon, the mission begins here. Yet despite all that firepower, missiles alone cannot keep a destroyer alive. If the ship is hit, if fire breaks out, if flooding begins, another hidden room immediately takes control. And unlike the CIC or the missile compartments, every sailor aboard may eventually find themselves working there. Every sailor aboard a destroyer knows one simple truth. Enemy missiles aren't the only threat. A fire, a ruptured pipe, an electrical fault, a machinery casualty, or even a collision at sea. Any one of these can become just as dangerous as enemy action. That's why one of the most important hidden rooms aboard an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer isn't filled with missiles or radar screens. It's called Damage Control Central, or DCC. Think of Damage Control Central as the destroyer's emergency operations center. If the Combat Information Center fights the enemy, Damage Control Central fights the ship's biggest internal threats. From here, specially trained sailors monitor the condition of the entire vessel. Large damage control diagrams display every compartment, watertight door, fire zone, flooding boundary, and major piping system throughout the ship. If a fire alarm activates, if flooding is detected, if toxic smoke spread, or the information is immediately reported to the DCC. From this room, repair lockers are dispatched. Ventilation systems may be isolated. Watertight doors can be ordered shut. Firefighting teams receive their assignments. Medical personnel are notified. Every decision is coordinated from one central location. Unlike many civilian ships, damage control aboard a U.S. Navy destroyer isn't just the responsibility of engineers. Every sailor receives damage control training. Whether someone works in weapons, communications, aviation, supply, or administration, they may still become part of a firefighting or flooding control team during an emergency. That philosophy dates back to World War II. Naval history repeatedly proved that ships survived not simply because they were well built, but because their crews refused to give up. A destroyer can lose power, it can suffer flooding, it can take battle damage, but if the crew keeps fighting, the ship still has a chance. Damage Control Central coordinates an enormous range of emergency equipment: portable firefighting pumps, fire hoses, aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, used on fuel fires, portable dewatering pumps for flooding, emergency breathing apparatus, thermal imaging cameras, portable communication equipment, shoring materials used to reinforce damaged bulkheads. Every item has a designated location. Every crew member knows where to find it, because when an emergency begins, there is no time to search. Training makes the response almost automatic. Damage control drills are among the most demanding exercises aboard any destroyer. Crews regularly train for scenarios involving simulated fires, flooding, pipe ruptures, electrical casualties, and chemical hazards. These drills often occur without warning. A sailor may be eating breakfast, sleeping after a night watch, or exercising in the gym when the general alarm suddenly sounds. Within minutes, repair teams are racing through narrow passageways carrying firefighting gear, while engineers isolate damaged systems and medical personnel prepare for casualties. The purpose isn't simply to practice procedures, it's to build muscle memory. Because in a real emergency, there is no time to think, only time to act. Located not far from Damage Control Central is another compartment that most visitors never see: the destroyer's medical department, often called sick bay. Although much smaller than a hospital ashore, it is equipped to handle many medical emergencies while the ship is deployed. Depending on the ship's assignment, the medical team may include a physician, physician assistant, or independent duty corpsman, supported by hospital corpsmen. Inside are examination areas, emergency medical supplies, medications, cardiac monitoring equipment, and minor surgical capability. If a sailor is injured during flight operations, machinery maintenance, or combat, the medical team stabilizes the patient until evacuation is possible or until the ship reaches port. On deployments lasting months, this small compartment becomes the crew's only source of care. When most people see a U.S. Navy destroyer, they notice the towering radar arrays, missile launchers, and powerful naval guns. But the true strength of the ship isn't what sits above the deck, it's what lies hidden beneath it. Behind heavy steel doors are the compartments that make everything possible: the Combat Information Center directing the battle, engineers keeping the propulsion plant running around the clock, technicians maintaining the vertical launch system, and damage control teams standing ready to save the ship if disaster strikes. Most of these rooms are never shown to the public. Some remain restricted because they contain sensitive equipment or operational procedures. Others simply aren't glamorous enough to appear in movies. Yet without them, even the world's most advanced destroyer would be little more than a floating hull. Modern destroyers are often described as floating cities. In reality, There's something even more impressive. They're floating ecosystems where hundreds of sailors live, work, repair, fight, and survive together, sometimes for months at a time, thousands of miles from the nearest coastline. Every compartment has a purpose, every sailor has a role, and every hidden room contributes to one mission: keeping the ship operational under any conditions. The next time you see an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer slicing through the ocean, remember that the missiles and radar tell only part of the story. The real magic happens below deck, where hundreds of sailors work around the clock in hidden spaces most people will never see. Because in the U.S. Navy destroyer, victory isn't built on weapons alone. It's built inside the hidden rooms that keep the ship and everyone aboard alive.